What's up everyone, Pritch here bringing you a guide on everything Ice Gauntlet in New World. First, we're going to go over basic and heavy attacks. Second, we're going to go over all the weapon abilities, upgrades, and passives that can be spec'd into for both the Ice Tempest and Builder trait lines. Finally, we're going to cover potential builds and fun weapon combos to try out. Let's get frosty. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the coolest weapon in New World, the Ice Gauntlet. The Ice Gauntlet scales off intelligence, so the more damage you want to do, the smarter you have to be. Before covering the basic attacks, I want to let you guys know three things. First, the Ice Gauntlet I was using had a perk called Keenly Fortified, which grants me a 3% fortify for 3 seconds when I crit, and this sits on a 10-second internal cooldown. When I randomly pop Fortify, it's because of this perk. Second, Mike gave me a doctor's note saying that he had to sit out of testing due to some unknown groin injury. I don't know. Our replacement dummy is Duruns, and this sneaky son of a gun has some perk on him that will occasionally grant him a Fortify, and this will reduce the damage I do to him. This will appear as a shield icon next to his name, and I think he gets it when I get his health past a certain threshold. Third, I'd like to think that so far, I've had a pretty solid grasp on crit values, and they've been pretty cooperative with me. I'm letting you guys know, I have no freaking clue what is happening with the Ice Gauntlet and crit values. I can't make them make sense at all. So for this video, I'm basically just going to ignore the crit values I get and just focus on the non-crit values, which tend to behave very normally. For you math gurus out there, let this whole video just be a giant problem for you and let me know what's going on in the comments below. Now know that I have a 20% bonus from light armor. I have a 10% bonus damage on light and heavy attacks from 50 intelligence points. I have the 20% crit damage bonus from 100 intelligence, and I have no other outside amplifiers. My basic attacks hit Duruns for 385 damage, so on this entire video, I will be calculating numbers with 296.15 as my Part A base number value. Finally, Duruns could have some perks on his armor that reduce crit values because neither of us remember what perks, if any, he had on him. Alright, disclaimers out of the way. Let's talk about your basic attacks. For your basic attack, point your hand forward and launch an icicle at your enemy, dealing 100% weapon damage. These light attacks are very spammable and only cost 2 mana per attack. The Ice Gauntlet has a heavy attack where you charge the gauntlet off to the side, then bring the power forward and release 2 side-by-side icicles, dealing 140% weapon damage. These heavy attacks cost 5 mana and travel at what appears to be the same speed as your light attacks. Basics done, let's go over the trait line known for creating snowstorms in Eternum, Ice Tempest. The first weapon ability is Ice Spikes. Slam your hand into the ground and send out small ice spikes in a line for about 6 meters, then create a giant spike at the final 2 meters. The small ice spikes deal 56% weapon damage, and the giant ice spike at the end deals 157% weapon damage. This all sits on a 9.6 second cooldown and costs 15 mana. You can spam the left mouse button to make the giant ice spike appear sooner, and this will shorten the distance of the entire line. The large spike will stagger and displace enemies hit slightly away from the spike. Overall, the ability looks incredible, so props to the animation team. A target standing around 6 meters can get hit with the damage from both the final small spike and the large spike for a total of 213% weapon damage. Fun note here, this ability can crit, and a lot of times it would crit when I spawned a large or small spike behind the target. Also, what's with the super weird weapon damage values? Like, would 60% and 160% really have been that crazy? It kind of seems like overly complicated for no reason. The first upgrade is Refreshing Spikes. If you hit something with the big spike, reduce the cooldown by 10%, which puts it at around 8.6 seconds, and at the time of recording this, it was bugged, but Amazon said that they've already fixed it, so yay. The second upgrade is Empowered Spikes. The large spike deals 20% more damage versus targets below 30% health. This was also bugged at the time of recording, and Amazon again stated that it's already been fixed, so at least they're cleaning up their messes. This footage is from beta, so I'm cool with it. The third upgrade is Deadly Path. Small spikes do 10% more damage and stagger. A 10% damage boost to a low value like 56% really isn't doing that much for you. The fourth upgrade is Spiky Reach. Shards shoot off 6 meters to the left and right of the big spike and deal 118% weapon damage. This basically puts training wheels on ice spikes so that if you can't land the large spike, you at least have 6 meters to get constellation damage. I'm not sure if this is the intended animation, but I really didn't get any cool icicle animations. It was just like a tiny pop of damage on either side of the ice spike. Also, I don't believe you can hit someone for both the large spike damage and the side pops. I think it's just one or the other. The next weapon ability is the iconic Ice Storm. Create a blizzard dome that has a 5-meter radius and can be cast from up to 20 meters. This blizzard creates a frosted area that deals 17% weapon damage every quarter second and slows enemies inside by 25%. This all sits on a 19.1 second cooldown and costs 25 mana. So, this ability is actually super wonky in application because it does last for 5 seconds, and it does proc damage 4 times a second, but it procs damage a total of 22 times. The moment you cast Ice Storm, it double procs damage, and the first value was always exactly 17% weapon damage, and then the second value was around 15.5% weapon damage. Then the next 20 hits would all be that 15.5% weapon damage value. So basically, you're hitting once for 17% weapon damage, then 21 times for 15.5% weapon damage, for a grand total of 342.5% weapon damage over 5 seconds. I have no idea if the double damage proc is intended or if the tooltip is intentionally lying, but how I would have imagined this playing out is no double proc damage and each tick is 17% damage, which would have given me a total of 357% weapon damage over 5 seconds. There's only a 15% difference here, so it's really not like a big deal, and with the double proc, you're front loading more damage, which is always really nice. Don't forget, on top of dealing great damage, it's also slowing your enemies and giving you a frost field, which you can interact other passives with for nice combos. The first upgrade is Weakening Gust. Targets under 50% health in your Ice Storm get weakened, which means that they take 10% increased damage. This debuff remains on them for however long they remain in the storm and goes away 3 seconds after they leave or after the storm ends. This is a pretty weird wording, but it's actually really easy in application. Just treat it like a 10% damage boost and throw it in your Part B calculations. This upgrade really makes me assume that double proc damage is a bug because one tick procs for the exact same 17% damage and gains that 10% damage boost, while the second tick doesn't even get the damage boost from this passive. Then the next 20 ticks all do 15.5% weapon damage with a gained 10% damage increase from Weakening Gust, which is what we were expecting it to do. There's definitely something funky going on here with all these initial double damage procs. The second upgrade is Storm Summoner. If you have full mana, Ice Storm only costs 5 mana. This makes it a really cheap opening move. The final upgrade is Punishing Storm. Do 10% more damage for each enemy in the Ice Storm. This will increase your damage by 10% with just one enemy inside, which means at bare minimum, you just gained a 10% damage boost. Overall, this ability is amazing, with great damage, zone control, and it gets even stronger in group content when you combine it with Gravity Wells. The final ability is Wind Chill. Put your hands together and cast Ice Beam, which has a 7-meter range. Enemies 5 meters or closer take 16% weapon damage and get pushed back until they are 6 meters away. Once they're 6 or 7 meters away, they stop being pushed and instead take 20% increased damage. This sits on a 14.4 second cooldown and costs 20 mana, and you can move while it's being cast. Alright, hope you guys are ready for the host of jabs I'm about to throw down. First, this doesn't tell you how many times it's supposed to tick for damage. Second, it doesn't even tell you how long the ability is supposed to last. Third, the tooltip is wrong about the 20% damage increase. Fourth, the ability is bugged. Alright, tackling 1 and 2 together here, using the incredible power of throwing a timer on the screen and counting with my fingers, I can tell you that this ability lasts for 2 seconds and procs for damage 11 times in those 2 seconds, which means that it's basically procking every 0.2 seconds. This means that it's doing a minimum of 176% weapon damage in 2 seconds, and this is not taking into account the damage increase for max range. Now, the tooltip says that you get a 20% damage increase for hitting targets 6 or 7 meters from you, and that's a lie. You're actually getting a 30% damage increase. I'll throw the math on screen for those interested, but the TLDR is that for me to go from 56 damage to 71 damage, I'm gaining a 30% damage boost in my Part B value instead of a 20% boost. I've tried making the math work other ways, but after a while, I just couldn't get the square block to go in the round hole. I'm honestly kind of happy about this though, because I think the ability could use a little extra love, as I don't think it's on par with the value that some of the other abilities are currently providing. Finally, let's talk about the glaring bug. My footage of this bug is with the upgrades on, so don't worry about the values of the duration. You can move while casting this ability, but if you push a target 6 or 7 meters away and then begin to take advantage of the increased damage, then you move forward or the enemy moves forward, you lose the damage bonus, and most importantly, the ability stops pushing the target. This means that once you knock the target back once, you won't be able to knock them back again. The whole purpose of this ability is to create space for yourself, and this bug kind of destroys that purpose. I'm not sure if this bug will be in game by launch, but just keep your eyes peeled. The first upgrade is Enduring Chill, which increases the duration by 1 second, so now it lasts for 3 seconds and procs 15 ticks of damage. This means that your new minimum damage value is doing 240% weapon damage in 3 seconds, and this does not consider the 30% damage bonus that you get for targets being 6 to 7 meters away. The final upgrade is Chilling Blast. Deal 25% increased damage when targets are 6 to 7 meters away. Same as before, I worked on this for a while and then just couldn't get the math to work. So I'm just going to say that I don't think it's a 25% increase. I think it's a 31.5% increase. If anyone way smarter than me can figure out the numbers, please leave a comment, let me know what's going on. But I'm just going to assume that they're under-promising and over-delivering. And that's honestly a really nice change of pace. With all the added bonuses, if you channel this ability at 6 to 7 meters for the entire duration in light armor, you're going to be doing around 435% weapon damage in 3 seconds, which is around 145% weapon damage each second. That's a really amazing damage burst in a super short amount of time, so don't you sleep on this ability. Abilities done, let's go over the passives. First up, Cold Reach. Gain a 15% damage boost on light and heavy attacks versus targets over 15 meters away from you. This really helps your basic attacks deal strong damage. Energized Critical. Do 15% increased crit damage on spells when at full stamina. From what I can tell, Ice Spike and Ice Pylon are the only two abilities that can crit, so I'm not too sure how valuable this passive is, especially because you want to dodge around when using Ice Pylon. Critical Rejuvenation. Gain 15 mana on crit. Everything you do costs mana, so this is a nice little boost helping out in the background. Gathering Storm. Hitting 3 consecutive light attacks gives you 15 mana. This has no cooldown, so if you keep spamming auto attacks, this is going to keep giving you mana after every third hit. Remember, your light attacks cost 2 mana, so at the end of the day, you're really only gaining 9 mana, which is still solid. I unfortunately did not test whether you need to hit the same target with all 3 hits, or how long you can wait between auto attacks, so if anybody knows those answers, I'd love to see that in the comments. Critical Frost. Gain 20% crit chance versus targets in frosted areas or that have frostbite, which is a debuff that you're going to get in a future ability called Ice Shower. This really helps you deal big damage to enemies caught in your Ice Storm, and your Ice Pylon will wind up taking advantage of the increased crit chance as well. Heavy Freeze. Your heavy attacks freeze enemies hit inside Ice Storm or frostbitten enemies for 1 second. You can think of Frozen like a 1 second root where the enemy can't move. You can constantly reapply this for however long your target stays in the storm or is frostbitten, which is awesome because it just guarantees more damage from your Ice Storm. Finally, we have the Ice Tempest Elite, Ultimate Chill. Your ice abilities chill targets, which increases your ice damage versus them by 35% for 3 seconds. I would assume this works in a similar fashion to the Weaken upgrade in Ice Storm, where you're going to maintain increased damage until your target stops being hit with your abilities. And once your target stops being hit, then the 3 seconds starts to count down. I think this is an amazing elite that just shoves a bunch of damage into your kit. 35% is no joke, especially since Ice Storm and Wind Chill already do really solid damage. Small thing here, this tooltip says that you increase your ice damage, which leaves open the possibility for secondary weapons with aquamarine gems that convert some of your damage to ice damage to also take advantage of this elite, but I'm not 100% sure on this, so just keep your eyes peeled. That's going to round out the Ice Tempest trait line. To recap, you get some incredibly powerful damage / zoning abilities. You get some great stat boost when going after enemies in frosted areas. Heavy attacks can freeze enemies. And your elite is a giant damage bonus. Alright everybody, mid-round break, and it was 4 days ago that I made that musket video, and I was just like over the moon about hitting over 2K subs, and I did it in like a week essentially. And now all of a sudden, I'm sitting at 3K, like 4 days later. This is insane. Guys, what are we building here? This is awesome. And for those of you that aren't subbed yet, you know you guys are hooked. You know you're loving the content. You might as well go hit that sub button, hit that like button, leave a comment down below, join the family. Let's build something great together. Let's move on to the builder tree. Next up, we have the defensive powerhouse trait line that was designed to induce rage in your enemies. Builder. The first weapon ability is Ice Pylon. Throw a huge ice shard into the ground and create an ice pylon to be your friend until something kills it or it's been 15 seconds. This pylon will attack enemies within 20 meters for 50% weapon damage. The pylon creates a small 1 meter frosted area and goes on a 9.6 second cooldown once it's been destroyed. Finally, Ice Pylon costs 15 mana to cast. The pylon shoots once every 2 seconds and will get a total of 8 shots off in its 15 second lifetime for a total of 400% weapon damage over 15 seconds. Now this isn't particularly impressive, but this is passive damage that's going to go off while you do whatever you want to do, and this doesn't consider any of the many upgrades. Fun note about the pylon, it's going to take your crit chance and your damage modifiers, so if you have a 20% damage bonus from light armor, the pylon will do that additional 20% damage as well. Finally, I basically view this like a pet, and I'm naming mine Jerry, because I can. The first upgrade is Greater Pylon. Jerry does 10% more damage to slowed targets. This is a nice little boost when you consider Ice Storm and Ice Shower will both impede your enemies for this damage boost. The second upgrade is Pylon Regen. If Jerry gets hit, it'll recover all its health back 5 seconds after last taking damage. This would be a really sweet upgrade if Jerry's health wasn't abysmally low. These pylons die in like 1 or 2 hits, which significantly decreases their value in PvP settings because they can just be cleaved down or focused in like a second. This is some incredibly fragile ice. The third upgrade is Pylon Dodge. Dodging at full stamina makes your pylon shoot faster for 3 seconds. Remember how I said the pylon shoots once every 2 seconds? Well, when you dodge at full stamina, now it shoots once every second. Unfortunately, the tooltip is a lie. It only enhances the fire rate for 2 seconds, which allows for 2 fast shots. Despite the lies, this is still a really amazing upgrade, and in theory, you can dodge at full health around every 3 seconds for some really solid DPS uptime, getting off around like 11 shots in 15 seconds for a total of 550% weapon damage over 15 seconds. And this doesn't even take any damage amplifiers into account. The fourth upgrade is Pylon Refresh. Every time Jerry hits something, he gains 1 second of life, which is another amazing upgrade that feels really impactful because if you constantly dodge to increase that rate of fire, your pylon can stay alive for a very long time. My little Jerry stayed alive long enough to fully kill Duruns all by himself. Who's a good boy? The next weapon ability is Ice Shower. Wave your hand in front of you and summon a 1 meter by 5 meter ice shower that lasts for 4 seconds. When an enemy enters your shower, they receive Frostbite, which is a debuff that roots them in place for 1 second and prevents them from dodging, and gives them a 50% slow. The root only lasts for 1 second, but the slow and the inability to dodge will remain on the target for however long they remain in the shower, plus 3 seconds after they exit the shower. This sits on a 19.1 second cooldown and costs 25 mana. This is hands down the best zoning CC ability in the game. I cannot more highly praise this ability and the ingenuity behind it. This feels incredibly satisfying to land, and if you land an Ice Shower plus an Ice Storm, your enemies are absolutely screwed. Frostbite will even apply to enemies that try dodging through the Ice Shower, so they're still going to get rooted and slowed. The first upgrade is Enduring Shower. Ice Shower now lasts for 7 seconds. This is a 75% buff to the duration, and it feels amazing. If you cast this on a target who stays in the shower for the full duration, they're going to have Frostbite on them for 10 seconds, which is absurdly strong. The second upgrade is Quick Shower. You and any ally will get a 25% haste for 2 seconds when entering Ice Shower. Now, unfortunately, Jerry doesn't have any legs, so he can't take advantage of this, and also, this is only going to be a one-time application. You're going to get the haste buff the moment you exit the shower, and once you exit the shower, if you try to re-enter and exit for reapplication of the haste, it won't work. You're only going to get it the one time. The final upgrade is Frigid Showers. Frostbite also applies a 10% rend, which reduces their armor and resistances. Remember, if they sit in the shower, the Frostbite's going to last for 10 seconds for a 10-second rend. I love this ability if you guys can't tell. The final weapon ability is Entombed. Entomb yourself in ice, which makes you become invulnerable for 10 seconds. During this time, you have greatly increased mana regen, and enemies can try to break you out of the ice by attacking the pillar, but this thing was imbued with the strength of a superglued pickle jar, and no mortal is getting through that. You can exit the entombment in one of 2 ways. First, you can break out with the left mouse button, which will damage nearby enemies and give them a slight knockback, but it's going to cost you 20 mana. Second, you can just exit without anything cool happening, and this doesn't cost you any mana. This whole ability sits on a 28.7-second cooldown and costs 10 mana to cast. 2 things. First, how much damage does the breakout option do? And second, how good is this mana regen? I hit Duruns for 598 damage, which means that this breakout does approximately 168% weapon damage. It also has the cooler animation, so I view these options in a very simple manner. If someone is close enough to be hit by breaking out, break out and damage them. If no one's around you, then just save the mana and ease out. On the mana regen side of things, I went from 0 to 100 in around 7 seconds, which is insanely fast compared to your normal mana regen. This ability is extremely strong in utility as both a mana reset button and the oh crap I just got caught button. Did someone hit you with a gravity well? Entomb. Did you burn all your mana on Fire Staff? Entomb. Did your wife come home and you didn't do the laundry? Entomb. The first upgrade is Strength Entomb. Get a 25% Fortify for 3 seconds after breaking out of Entomb. Fortify increases your armor and resistances. Note that you have to do the breakout option here to get the buff, and this is going to help you survive the wolves waiting for you when you come out. The final upgrade is Cleansing Tomb. Once you entomb yourself, Conde cleanse yourself of all debuffs. This is just an all-around great reset button for the Ice Gauntlet users, and it can really frustrate your PvP opponents when they think that they finally caught you. Abilities done, time for the passives. First up is possibly one of the strongest passives in the game, Blocking Stamina. Blocking with the Ice Gauntlet converts mana to stamina on hit at a ratio of 3 mana for every 15 stamina. That's a 1-to-5 ratio. That is insane. If we talk about purely the ability to block damage and not the ability to taunt adds, the Ice Gauntlet is hands down the best weapon for tanking hits. For context, an attack that would normally do 80 stamina damage, which would be 4/5 of a tank's stamina bar, will only take 16 mana to refill, which would still leave 84 mana left over to block more attacks. What? This is so strong. It appears to function in a kind of weird way where the attacks initially do stamina damage, but instantly get regened with mana, so you can kind of see my stamina bar change for like a brief split second before going back to 100 stamina when he attacks me with the rapier. In terms of raw block damage potential, Sword and Shield plus Ice Gauntlet is probably the highest block potential in New World, and second place I don't even think will be close. Now just be careful though, because if you take a hit that would break your stamina bar, it will break and you will still get stunned. Quick Frost. Get a 10% move speed in frosty areas. This will be on your Ice Pylon, in your Ice Storm, or your Ice Shower. I don't really know how much you're going to be running through that stuff, but it's something. Empowered Frost. Get 3 whole mana when you cast a spell in a frosty area. 3 mana is the equivalent of offering me 5 stamina, and I view this as worthless. Frozen Touch. If someone hits you with a melee attack when you have full health, they get a 25% slow for 2 seconds. I think this is incredibly strong, but unfortunately, Amazon is struggling with timers because this slow lasted for half a second, which is 25% of the value I was promised. Half a second is worthless and doesn't do anything, so if this doesn't get changed, I'm never going to recommend it. Refreshing Frost. When you cast an ability in a frosty area, your cooldowns get reduced by 20%, and this is a nice little cooldown reduction that just helps a bit in the background. Defiant Freeze. Get a 20% Fortify for 2 seconds when you cast an ability. I'm not sure if 2 seconds really does much of anything for you, but I guess it's going to help in the brief time where you're animation locked while finishing an ability. Next, we have the Builder Elite, which is actually the final upgrade to your Ice Pylon called Ultimate Frost. Jerry gets double the health, and the frost radius goes from 1 meter to 5 meters for a nice wide frosty area. If you stand in this frosty area, Quick Frost and Empowered Frost bonuses get doubled. Quick Frost is the 10% move speed bonus in frosty areas, so here you're going to now get a 20% move speed bonus, which feels really amazing when you're kiting an enemy around. Empowered Frost was the 3 mana on casting an ability, and this gets doubled to 6, and it's still really crappy and I don't value this very much, but at least casting 2 spells and getting 12 mana back is better than 6. I think one of the biggest aspects here is that Jerry's health gets doubled, so now it's going to take 2 to 3 hits instead of just 1 to 2. If they ever buff the Pylon's base health stats, then this can get very powerful very quick, but currently, even with this buff, it's way too easy to kill Pylons in PvP scenarios. That concludes the Builder trait line. To recap, you can make a friend for yourself that hits enemies for you. You have incredible zoning and defensive weapon abilities. You basically block attacks using mana. You get some fun bonuses in frosty areas, and your elite supercharges Jerry with health and size. Alright everybody, trait line's done, let's hop into some fun builds. But before I do, I just want to give you a quick heads up. I think that every ability except Ice Spike is insanely good on Ice Gauntlet. So I could see very viable and awesome builds utilizing any combination of the other weapon abilities. So just take mine with a grain of salt and just know, I think they're all amazing. I really do. These were super hard to make.
As always, there are a plethora of different ways to play New World that require different builds to focus on different roles, so we're going to start with my recommendations for playing the game solo open world, then partied open world, then expeditions, then 1v1 builds, then 50v50 war builds, and then finally, the one build to rule them all for if you want to do everything, but don't want to constantly change your build like me.
First up, solo open world. Here, I wanted a nice mix of AoE damage, zone control, companionship, and defense mana reset. I think that when you're out in the open world and farming mobs, the Ice Pylon is a really nice partner in crime to help take aggro, or, if you have aggro, just dodge around and let Jerry do all the work for you. When you come across bigger mob clusters, you have Ice Storm to AoE everything down, and we can freeze enemies in the storm with our heavy attacks. Finally, we have the defensive Entomb for when adds close the distance to us, or we just want to reset our mana. I think this build leads to very easy encounters with simple kiting mechanics, and the Builder Elite, Ultimate Frost, really helps Jerry hold aggro, or gives you a wide area to kite adds around with a 20% move speed. If you couple that with the 25% slow you apply with Ice Storm, you'll be moving almost twice as fast as the adds. On top of all the zoning potential, you can always just block hits and take essentially no stamina damage too. For weapon pairings, oh man, you can honestly pair this weapon with any other weapon in New World, and I'd tell you the combo works well. Like, for real, I think this weapon pairs really well with every weapon in New World except the bow and the musket. You could pair this with the Fire Staff, which is the other intelligence weapon, for the ultimate mage build. Go Fire and Ice, where you can utilize the big raw damage in the Fire Staff output with the zoning and control that the Ice Gauntlet provides. You could pair this with the Life Staff and never worry about your health ever again. Plus, the added mana regen for putting points in focus just helps make your Ice Gauntlet more powerful. You can pair this with the Rapier, which has secondary scaling on intelligence, and just nuke any ad that gets into melee range of you. The Rapier also provides a ton of mobility for moving around to turn them quickly. You can pair with the Spear and combo the zoning of the Ice Gauntlet with the quick CC combo of the Spear to lock down enemies once they've found their way into your melee range. This combo can lock down enemies inside your Ice Storm for the full 5-second duration. And in the same light, you could pair with the Warhammer for the exact same effect. Use the Warhammer to CC combo any adds that get close and keep them locked down in your Ice Storm for the full duration and big damage. Better yet, you could run the Great Axe and throw a Gravity Well down on top of your Ice Storm to guarantee the lockdown. You can also utilize the large lifesteal potential on Great Axe to keep your health topped off. Great Axe lifesteal not good enough for you? Run the Hatchet and enjoy a spammable 30% health recovery that also happens to do great single target DPS and will get you zooming around to turn them with constant haste uptime. Don't care about damage or mobility? Just want to block everything and ignore your dodge button? Sword and Shield for being the tankiest meat shield possible and enjoy using that Ice Gauntlet to block any damage coming your way. This weapon is crazy versatile and can be used to set up other classes really well, or can combo off other classes really well. Just find the playstyle that fits for your personality and go with it. Next, you got a couple buddies and you're roaming around to turn them together for Partied Open World. Here, we've swapped off Ice Pylon and Ultimate Frost and replaced them with Wind Chill and Ultimate Chill. In group content, I think having both Ice Storm and Wind Chill will be an awesome AoE damage and zoning combo that your friends are really going to enjoy playing off of. This is the more damage variant where you're going to be dealing amazing AoE damage while providing zone control, but if you wanted to focus more on the zone control side of things, you could always swap out Wind Chill for Ice Shower. If you learn to distance 6 to 7 meters well with the Wind Chill, you can pump some really amazing damage in 3 seconds, and it's going to hit any ad you aim at for nice AoE potential. Since we aren't taking Jerry, we're going to be taking full advantage of that nice 35% damage bonus when we hit enemies with any of our spells. For weapon pairings, I really see different options depending on your playstyles. If you want to be the big damage dealer, you could pair with the Fire Staff for huge AoE mob clears. This is the ultimate mage build, and while Fire Staff can burn through mana pretty quickly, you have Entomb to just top yourself right off. Another option would be the Rapier, which has extremely high single target DPS for if you run into like a bear or a tough elite mob. Let the Ice Gauntlet be the AoE damage while the Rapier dishes out the big single target hits. If you want to be the healer of the group, you can run Ice Gauntlet as the secondary for mana regen on Entomb and run Ice Shower and Ice Storm for huge CC and zoning to enable your group to AoE cleave adds easier while you just pump heals on the Life Staff. If you wanted to be a huge CC machine, you could also just run Ice Storm and Ice Shower with a Spear or a Warhammer or a Great Axe. All three weapons provide great CC options to keep adds locked down so they're never going to have a chance to hit your buddies. Next up, Expeditions, which are 5-man instance dungeons. Here, I normally see Ice Gauntlets coming in one of two roles. First and foremost, you're a DPS player and you're there to do big damage. A vast majority of your time in expeditions is clearing mob clusters, so AoE damage is highly valued. As such, I'm recommending the exact same build as Partied Open World because I think this is going to get the best maximized damage over the entire expedition. Use Ice Storm and Wind Chill to just nuke down grouped mobs, and if you ever wind up pulling aggro or getting caught in a boss mechanic, just pop Entomb and shrug it off. In expeditions, there isn't enough room for 3 melee players to back crit, so one person needs to play ranged, and your Ice Gauntlet is going to fit that role perfectly. The other role I see Ice Gauntlets in is the secondary weapon for healing Life Staff users. If this is you, just swap out Wind Chill for Ice Shower to help you zone control ads off you. If things get scary, you have a 10-second invulnerability to entomb yourself, and if your friends can't kill the ads or take aggro in that time, just get better friends. For weapon pairings, shocker, if you're the healer, you're bringing that Life Staff, and the Ice Gauntlet is more of that secondary weapon for quick zoning CC. If you want to do damage, I'm going to recommend the Fire Staff, the Rapier, or the Spear. The Fire Staff is essentially the same as the Ice Gauntlet in that it does great AoE damage, and you can think of it like the higher damage, less CC option when compared to the Ice Gauntlet, but they both pair really well together and make a really well-rounded mage. The Rapier is the highest single target DPS in the game currently, and it has secondary scaling on intelligence, so it's still going to hit like a truck, and since you're there to do damage, it just fits perfectly. The Spear does solid DPS, but it also provides the only 30% rend in the game, which can be maintained for 100% uptime. Rend reduces a target's armor and resistances, and in expeditions, this is huge for greatly increasing your party's overall damage output and ending fights much faster. PvE done, let's move into the PvP side of things. First up, 1v1s. Here, I strongly value Ice Shower and Entomb. Ice Shower provides insane lockdown when used properly, and by used properly, I mean don't blow it when someone kinda gets close to you. Wait until they're on top of you and stuck in an animation, then cast it, and watch them squirm while you pepper them with autos and ice storms. If you can, try to get off an Ice Shower straight into an Ice Storm, straight into a heavy attack to freeze them in all your fat damage. Don't be afraid, by the way, if you miss the Ice Shower, to just play around it. Skirt around it for like 7 seconds and kite your opponents out because they can't get through it. The same goes for your Ice Storm. Even if it doesn't land perfectly, you can still use those 5 seconds to zone your opponents away or make them run through it to get to you. Finally, you have the failsafe button in Entomb. This is the oh crap button for once all your zone control abilities are on cooldown or you get caught with something. The best thing you can do is use this to counter your opponent's strongest ability or combo. An easy example is a Great Axe Gravity Well. Instead of eating damage while stuck in it, just entomb yourself and wait it out. Since we aren't using Jerry, but we are using 2 builder abilities, we want to dump the rest of our points into Ice Tempest passive so that we can take advantage of that 35% damage in Ultimate Chill. For weapon pairings, my top 3 suggestions would be the Fire Staff, the Rapier, and the Spear. The Fire Staff is for that mage playstyle where you really want to focus on applying damage over time on Fire Staff, then zone controlling on Ice Gauntlet to let those burn ticks really chip away at your enemies. The Rapier is an incredible dueling weapon with very high damage, a parry, a dash, and a spammable invulnerability frame, which gives you the edge to any exceptional gamer if used properly. This is the high risk, high reward playstyle where you can destroy opponents if you time your abilities well, but if not, you're gonna melt. The Spear is a really solid PvP weapon that provides a lot of quick CC combos that are hard to avoid. Opponents will take a bit to get into melee range of you, and once they do, you can swap to Spear and then land a full CC combo for a great trade where they take a bunch of damage and you don't take a hit. Then swap back to the Ice Gauntlet while they're getting up and kite them out again. This is easily one of the most frustrating combos to go against as it zone controls really well, then is hard to out-trade once you actually get into melee range because of all the fast CC. Next, we have 50v50 Wars, and I'll be recommending the exact same build because everything the Ice Gauntlet does well performs even better in group content. Ice Storm might be the hardest hitting AoE damage ability in New World because it gains a 10% damage per enemy caught inside, and the dome is huge. On top of the damage, it's also providing a huge slow, and this bad boy can be cast from a safe 20 meters away. This is so good in Wars, and I just cannot stress that enough. Ice Shower is also an AoE ability, and it literally draws a line in the sand where enemies shall not pass for 7 seconds. This will stifle any strong push if placed correctly. Also, the way your Ultimate Chill Elite works, other Ice Gauntlet users will apply chill to enemies with their abilities, which gives you the 35% increased damage, and that's awesome! For weapon pairings, I think the Fire Staff is really the best pairing for the playstyle of the Ice Gauntlet in Wars. For both, you want to be in the backline, dishing out huge damage on whoever your frontline engages with. The Ice Gauntlet will provide the AoE damage with utility and zoning, while the Fire Staff will provide the AoE and big damage over time applications with burn. If you wanted a melee weapon for when people flank your backlines, you can always try out the Rapier, Spear, or Warhammer. The Rapier is the fast, quick agility weapon that helps you reposition very quickly. The Spear is the quick CC option for dispatching an enemy and putting them on their backside so that you can start backing up and kiting. Finally, the Warhammer is the slower but bigger CC option for if you wanted to do more AoE stuns, staggers, and knockdowns. Finally, you're like me. You love New World. All the content in the game sounds amazing, so you plan to do it all, but you don't want to constantly change your build around. Well, look no further, because I present to you the one build to rule them all, and it's exactly the same as the PvP builds. Whether you're farming Marauders or farming ads, Ice Shower into Ice Storm is a deadly combo that will leave your enemies crippled and chilled to the bone while taking massive damage from you, and no matter what content you run, you always want that Entomb safety button to give yourself a free pass if you get caught out, or, more importantly, just reset your mana so you can spam all your abilities again. Whether you're killing ads in the open world, murdering bosses in expeditions, or eradicating the green blob on your server, the free 35% damage bonus from Ultimate Chill is super impactful and makes you hit like a truck. For weapon pairings, I gotta recommend the Fire Staff, Rapier, or Spear. If you're into role-playing, and I know some of you are, Ice Gauntlet plus Fire Staff equal Mage, and you are going to love it. The Fire Staff provides some really nice mobility with the longest dash in the game and great damage to complement the AoE zone control you're bringing to the table. If you fancy yourself a pro gamer who can outplay anyone, then the Rapier is for you. Test your mettle by timing those evade iframes perfectly to not only avoid damage, but nuke the enemy health bars at the same time by being extremely aggressive. Finally, if you can admit to yourself that you're probably not the best of the best and would rather simply do easy trades with the Spear, this weapon will keep your enemies locked down so hard that they won't be able to touch you, and by the time that they get up, you're already going to be back on the Ice Gauntlet and ready to zone control them all over again. No matter which option you pick, with the Ice Gauntlet, you're going to be the incredibly elusive target that nothing can get their hands on, which means that you get to play every fight on your terms. That's going to finish up the Ice Gauntlet. Huge shout out to Duruns. Thank you so much for being an awesome test dummy. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys are ready to go out there and freeze all your enemies. I love you. Appreciate you guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.